when we're on the topic of franchises and movies and stuff, we've got one coming the other direction.
I am so excited for this.
Because Frank Herbert's Dune is coming to the tabletop. Ben, fill us in.
So, Gale Force 9 announced this week that they're in a partnership with Frank Herbert's Dune world and the sci-fi world behind all of that. And they're going to be bringing to the tabletop a whole bunch of board games and miniatures games based within this world. The big announcement that came out of this as well is that they've also partnered with Modiphius, who are going to be creating a role-playing game which will be coming out in 2019, I believe. So, some big news coming out on this front. We've talked about this in the past when we've done sort of coverage of what kind of sci-fi universes we'd like to see on the tabletop, and Dune came up a lot. We've talked about it in multiple shows and stuff like that, and it'll be very, very interesting to see how this comes together. Gale Force 9 have proved themselves to be very, very good handlers of licenses, as have Modiphius as well. They've been doing some really good stuff with role-playing games and stuff as well. So yeah, it's going to be very cool to see how this works out, and the future looks bright for Dune and Dune fans, which is very cool.
Yeah, really interesting.
This is one of my favourite books of all time. I've read this maybe 3 times, not including audiobook go-throughs. And I've been waiting for a good tabletop game for this.
Yeah.
And there's go ahead, Ben.
The other interesting thing, as well, is that this is going to be based and sort of running up until the 2020 revamp of the film by Denis Villeneuve, who was the guy behind the new Blade Runner and stuff like that. So it's going to be very cool seeing what they take from this new film and the aesthetic from there, which I'm guessing is going to be coming across in the sort of miniatures and the board games, and then maybe looking back towards some of the older illustrations and the old art styles and of course the old films with maybe the role-playing game as well, because there's been so many fantastic illustrations done for this game, this world, as you can see by the alternate book covers and stuff we had in the news story and things. So it'd be very cool to see what they do.
There are so many ways you can delve into this, from large scale. Of course, with Dune, it's very politically focused. So the obvious ones are large scale civ builders, where you have your house, your noble house, and you're competing for control of the spice and political favors and strength.
So that's your 4X
kind
of thing there.
Definitely be your 4X, where you've got the Bene Gesserit and the Navigators Guild on either side trying to compete with those. But you can also narrow it down, maybe a board game where you're controlling I almost called them sandcrawlers. The spice harvesters. And you have to try and gather in as much spice before worms notice you. And you have that element of judgment. When do you pull back your harvester? There could be card games where you can use...
the other thing is, remember, it is coming from basically the masters of the 15 mil game. So like 15 mil Dune could be awesome. It's like the scale of it would just be incredible.
I want to see Fremen riding worms on the table. I want to see Sardaukar forces.
Although with the way the industry is these days, I'd say you're possibly more likely to see a skirmish game where it's small raids happening through a story-based
that would
campaign.
That would also work, because there is a lot of that skirmish level fighting.
I'm telling you now that if they obviously have this license somewhere. A 15 mil version of this game exists at the moment, because I do know this because as we've said, Battlefront, Gale Force 9 are very, very expert at handling licenses. They have done stuff years back where there was a very big license that they were looking into, and I know that it made its way into a 15 mil game at the time. So I have no doubt that their designers and stuff have been putting stuff together to see how it would all work. Like, oh God, what you would give to be in New Zealand right now to hunt through that studio.
When we were at the Battlefront Open Day, I was chatting to some of the folks there who work for Gale Force 9, and they were actually saying one of the games that they were actually really sad to lose the license for was Spartacus, because the game system was so good. And they were talking about what they would possibly use to reskin that game system and retune it. I would be possibly looking at this as the spiritual successor to the Spartacus game.
Could be.
With the same sort of mechanics, because I know they're looking at that.
There is precedent for sort of gladiatorial combat within Dune. I know Harkonnen do stuff like that.
You'll have your intrigue phase, you'll have your market phase where you're trading spice, and then you'll have maybe a raiding phase where you're going in to try and actually steal spice.
So each of the houses, or
each
really interesting.
Do have their own unique fighting force.
So
it's a possibility.